Hi again, everybody. This video is sponsored by contribution from Terry, and here's her story. And if you're wondering about the sunglasses, I'm just trying to keep the glare off my face because I've been pressure build up again. So, again, here's her story. Hi, Ollie. My name is Terry, but my name was Aaron before my narcissistic parents came to the orphanage and adopted me so they could savage me almost 4 decades with military force. My father is a Vietnam vet who went on to become a very high rank in the military, a decorated soldier, very much respected. A truly professional sadistic fucker who tortured me prisoner of war style, like he was trained to do, and was always because histrionic mother commanded him to do so. Just because something in her demented, fucked up head made her want it. She's like the queen of the damned, or the Betty Davis character from Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. When I was about 12 years old, my father actually said in a mystified, confused tone after one of the all-night interrogation sessions, "I can't break you. I don't know why I can't break you." The big, powerful, tough soldier man could not break a little girl. He could break other men, bigger men, lots of men, but he couldn't break his daughter, even though he tried his hardest and used every torturous technique he knew. He's like the huntsman in Snow White, except that when Mommy Dearest went into Mirror Mirror insanity, he didn't cut out the heart of a deer to give it to her. He cut out my heart for her many times, and he fucking enjoyed it. So I think that sets the scene. The reason why I think he couldn't break you, because he probably had no idea what he was trying to break you of. See, now you're Australian, so he's Australian military. But in any type of interrogation tactic, you know who you're interrogating, what you're suspecting them of doing. Whereas a child, he doesn't know he's just cold fishing. So the fact that maybe he couldn't get anything where you would admit to something, because he doesn't even know what he's searching for, but he sure likes going through the motions of interrogating. Ollie, I've had my problems with my voice all my life too. Constant throat infections, tonsillitis, losing my voice regularly. I feel that there's a connection between voice problems and the way we were silenced for so long. The scratchy rasp in our voice may come and go, but guess what? We will keep fucking speaking. But I know what stress on the voice can be like. I am so deeply grateful for the work you do, and I'm also grateful for those who contribute their stories. It is truly amazing that we are able to come together and tell our stories from all over the world, different backgrounds, cultures, etc. And yet the similarities we share are just incredible. Ollie, this is truly powerful work you're doing. So many times I've watched your videos and cried and felt so fucking amazed that I am not the only one. Even though life is pretty awful for me right now, I'm on the disability pension, living in public housing, no car, job, money, and trying to free myself from a prison of narcissists, adopted family, biological family, partners and friends using me, junkie neighbors. I've started to see a light at the end of the tunnel. I am a writer, although I've never had the confidence or strength to put myself out there. And my mother has always told me, "I will sue you if you ever write about me." I'll sue you if you ever write about me. If you ever write about me this, I'll disown you. If you ever tell anybody that. When you hear "I will sue you if you ever write about me," means you got a story to tell. Means you got a story to tell, because that means your narcissist is so fucked up that they know they're fucked up, and it's so bad that they need to threaten you into silence. Ollie, you have taught me that I deserve to profit from the dysfunction and abuse I suffered. I have a degree in creative writing and have taught writing and have written several unpublished novels, but I've never written about about what the narcs did to me. To avoid writing a novel here, I thought it would be a good idea to use dot points inspired by the stories on your channel, which have made me remember things that have happened to me. It's from notes I wrote during different videos, so not in a neat chronological order, but I think broad strokes are best to use here. So here it goes. At 5 years old, I woke up in the middle of the night and heard strange noises and got out of bed and walked into the living room. Mom was having a dinner party. Her friends saw me and said, "Oh look, isn't she cute?" My mom was looking at me in a strange, scary way. I ran back to my room and jumped into bed. She came in, closed the door, got on top of me, and put her hands over my mouth and nose. She was literally seething, spitting out words I couldn't hear. I couldn't breathe. I really thought she was going to kill me. In my early teens, Mom would orchestrate massive fights between my father and I. He would beat the shit out of me. I always fought back like a terrified wild animal. Then she would force us to make up, say sorry, and hug each other. This is a little game Mom would play often. I was completely destroyed mentally and emotionally by weeks or months of seemingly loving parents, and then out of the blue, hysterical screeching and military-grade torture. When I was almost 3 years old, my parents adopted a baby boy. It's only through watching your videos that I realized the sick connection she made with him. Mom always had problems with her periods. She basically had them nonstop. She would proudly tell people that my brother knew what a sanitary pad was when he was a toddler, and that she'd be on the toilet, see that she got her period, and call out to my brother, "Get me a pad," and he would get it. She was so proud. She'd always walked around naked and said, "It's healthy for a boy to see an older woman's body." When I was 15, my brother was about 13. My mother ran to room in an excited flush and wanted to show me something in my brother's room. I went in and she was pointing at stains on his sheet, saying, "Look, our boy's becoming a man. I think he had one of those wet dreams." It was sickening. Strangely, when I got my first period at just 11 years of age, Mom reacted with disgust and made me feel like I had done something terrible. Oh, God. I had spilled tuna fish on a blanket once, on a Jets blanket that was on my bed once. I was eating in my room. Cleaned it up, but mayo dries, stain. Like, my mother in the back room watching TV, and my mother comes down with the blanket in her hand, accusing me, and I was about 13, 14 at the time, maybe 12, accuses me of, "Oh, you're jerking off, and if you're going to jerk off, you're going to clean up with your I'm like, "I dropped tuna fish, and why are you even saying that?" That's sexual abuse. I mean, it's just sexual abuse. And, this almost even leads, since you and your brother are adoptive, this is the type of narcissistic parent that adopts. And don't think that's not in your mom's mind. "Oh, well, he's not my blood son. He's not my real..." Ugh. Great, you're just a pedophile then. This is not technically incest, so you're just a fucking pedophile. We had to eat dinner like it was a formal event every night. My eating habits were fucked up by my father sitting across from me and constantly going insane because I didn't use my knife and fork in the correct way. He never explained the right way, but I'm sure that whenever I did, it would be wrong. To this day, I go long periods without eating a thing, even when I'm not having a manic psychotic episode. Virginia got on me about how I held my knife and fork when I was a kid, and it traumatized me. But I ended up holding it at like 6 years old. Everyone was like, wow, look how well he holds it like an adult. Like he's a, just let a kid eat. They never miss an opportunity, though. I have bipolar. I think my parents were secretly overjoyed when I was diagnosed at 23 years old because then it was official. It was all my fault. They were wonderful, perfect parents who had the burden of a mentally ill daughter. The narcissistic supply they got from "it's so difficult having a daughter with a mental illness" was pure gold for them. My bipolar diagnosis invalidated me 1000%. Before the diagnosis, it was only 100% validation, ridicule, gaslighting. It's a total mind fuck when you can't even hold on to the thought that your parents are making you crazy because now you're actually diagnosed with being crazy. It would be interesting to know how many people in psychiatric wards were only there because they had narc parents. My guess is millions. During my first psychic admission, my mother came in to visit me. She said she had something nice for me. She told me to sit on the bed. She got a bowl of water and a razor and shaved my legs. Yes, she brought a razor to the psych ward. It's a shame that I didn't use the razor on her. It would have been the perfect setting, but I was too shocked and too sick to do anything. Came in to get her possession of your own body. When I was about 12 years old, my parents and I were sitting on the couch arguing about something. All of a sudden, my father punched me in the face and said, "Don't look at my wife that way. Don't look at my wife that way." You know, that's a product of what your parents really thought of you. You being adopted. My wife, you're never really a part of the family, are you? Because I mean, Normus would say that to me, every now and again. He would break out a "my wife" thing, like your wife. You can't stand this bitch other than when it suits you to abuse me. So all of a sudden, she's your wife, clown. My father was constantly bursting into my room and dragging me out, kicking me down the hallway, or even kicking open the toilet door when I was on the toilet, dragging me out, pants down, pushing and kicking me. Always so he could literally throw me at my mother's feet and command me to spend time with your mother. She was utterly obsessed with television shows and movies. That's basically all she ever did with her life. And I was supposed to sit there like a zombie and with her and watch stupid crap. Again, they adopted you to be her pet. Nothing more. My parents have always criticized every person they ever came in contact with. Ali spoke about your parents doing this in one of your videos. I suddenly realized that I couldn't think of a single person my parents hadn't said vile, nasty things about. I mean, it couldn't just be "I didn't like that person." It had to be the most dramatic, hate-filled rant every time. Well, she looked like a bag of shit tied in the middle. That was one of her favorites, but it didn't stop there. They didn't like the way someone looked. Her husband was a pig. Their children were horrible. Their food was atrocious. No wonder she can't get a decent job, on and on and on and on. They would also regularly turn their criticism and hatred on each other. It was like rabid animals tearing each other apart, and it would go on for hours. The hysterical screeching and shocking insults one of the all-time favorite narc chants. How dare you? How fucking dare you? Yep, been there, done that, heard it all. My mother told me that sperm can get inside you even if the penis wasn't inside you. She told me her auntie got pregnant by being naked with her boyfriend and fooling around by not actually having sex. Okay. When I was 15, I got drunk and was naked with a boyfriend. We didn't have sex and I was a virgin, but Mom's story made me think I could be pregnant. Of course, Mom didn't just tell me the story once. She made sure to tell me 1,000 times at least. So I went to the school counselor crying and told her what happened. You'd think the bitch would have explained things to me. But she sat there with a shocked look on her face and said, I think you should go talk to a doctor. There was a doctor near my school and she arranged me to go that afternoon. You think the doctor would have explained things to me, but he was a young man and I was an innocent crying girl. He said I needed a pap smear. He broke my hymen by inserting a speculum into my vagina. It hurt and I bled. I never told anyone about this. Unbelievable. My diaries were always read. Sometimes they'd be sitting on the kitchen table, open, and my parents had kindly edited my private thoughts, scribbling over sections, adding their own thoughts, tearing out entire sections. My mother also used to like going through the trash bin in my room and taking the time to pick out pieces of paper and tape them back together so she could read anything I ripped up and thrown out. When I was about 13, I wrote a short story to enter into a writing competition. It was about a young boy who was being abused by his parents. I proudly read it to my parents. They totally lost their shit, started screaming, hitting me, tore up the story, and said I'd be taken away by social services if I ever read that story, because people would believe I was writing about myself. I ran away from home so many times. I used to pull the fly wire screen off the window and slide through the gap and just run like the wind. I felt like I was running for my life, like I was in a jungle running from a pack of lions. I think this is when my manic tendencies kicked in. Run without stopping. Don't eat. Keep going. Just don't stop. It's astonishing that so many people knew I was constantly running away, but I always had to go back. My mother told me that the woman shouldn't do anything during sex. Women should just lie there and let the man do all the work. She said if I wanted anything from a man, I should just cry or sit on their knee or wear a sexy dress. She was really confused when I said I'd rather die than act like that. I'm sorry. Again, another reason for the headaches is they won't stop banging upstairs. My parents teased and taunted me all the time. Anything I liked, any idea, preference, interest, they would just make fun of me mercilessly and say things like, I never heard of anything so ridiculous. I remember my mother's sadistic joy every time I was hurt or in pain, particularly emotional pain. The peak of her joy occurred when she caused the pain. For example, when I was in my early teens and looking forward to an underage disco. For weeks I talked about it, planned my outfit, practiced dancing. At the last moment she said I couldn't go. No reason. It was like she had emotional orgasms by watching my pain. Parents do that to me all the time. All the time. They knew I had something. Don't say anything. I learned not to say anything because they would find a reason right at the end not to let you go. Ollie, you won't be surprised to hear that my mother loved poodles. When I was about 8 years old, my parents got poodle puppies, a boy and a girl. I adored them both, but as children do, my brother bonded with the male puppy while the girl puppy became my special pet. A few years went by and suddenly Mom decided she couldn't cope with looking after two dogs. She didn't have a job while my father had two jobs and drove my brother and I to our grandmother's home early in the morning to stay there before school. My mother slept most of the day and picked us up after school. So it was impossible to look after two little dogs. She decided the girl dog, my special one, was the one that had to go. On the morning the dog was going to be given away, I was weeping and sobbing and hugging the dog to say goodbye. My mom was my mom was watching and getting off on my agony. She said, "Oh, don't be so ridiculous. You never hugged her in the morning before this." One of your early videos talking about your mother made me remember an image I had forgotten. My mother is sitting on the couch, naked from the waist down, with her legs spread wide open. My father is leaning over her. He is squeezing an ingrown hair, which is right near her vagina. My brother and I are right there watching, right next to it. My brother on one side, me on the other. I was about 6 years old, and my brother was about 4 years old. I vividly remember my mother having terrifying episodes when I was very young. I guess they could be called psychotic episodes, but even though I have a degree in psychology, I have worked as a mental health advocate and have been a patient in many psych wards myself. I've never seen a psychotic episode as terrifying as my mother's episodes. It often happened when I was alone with her and only about 3 or 4 years old. She'd rock and scream and wail. I tried to comfort her. I remember looking into her eyes and seeing endless black holes. It was like looking into the eyes of a devil. I thought her pain was the devil and I had to heal it. As a young child, I thought I had to heal the devil. I spent my life trying to heal my mother. My father commanded me to heal my mother too many times to count. I was an overachiever. I took on extra subjects, double majors at university, had several part-time jobs while studying double loads, was the lead in theater productions, dressed immaculately with perfect makeup at all times. I was literally manic for years. I never stopped. I never fucking stopped. Everyone thought I had the most wonderful life, the most loving parents who adored me and gave me everything. I was beautiful, but I thought I was the ugliest piece of shit in the world. The kids at school teased me every day, telling me I was ugly and a nerd, screaming at me. I never let them see me cry, but I was always in the toilets crying. Years later, I know that kids were just jealous of me because I was smart and beautiful. But at the time, I just wanted to die. I started thinking about suicide when I was about 7 years old. There hasn't been a day I haven't thought about it since then. On top of my bipolar, which I really think is PTSD as a result of narc abuse, I have other disorders or strange self-soothing habits. I can get stuck in stupid, repetitive tasks like OCD stuff. I've had panic attacks and anxiety. In fact, when I think about it, psychiatrists have given me just about every diagnosis that exists. I've probably displayed all the symptoms of every disorder at some point. I was once told I had borderline personality disorder. My parents loved that one. They read all about it and it gave them more ammunition than the bipolar diagnosis. My mother rang me and said borderline people don't see things the right way and that's what's wrong with you. We did everything for you, but you were always too sick with your personality disorder. We should have left you in the orphanage instead of giving you a wonderful life. Like a pet. And the answer to that is you didn't notice any of those characteristics in yourself, huh? I've had problems with binge drinking, but I've never had a drug addiction problem. Although I've tried to numb the pain away, the thing about alcohol is that it shuts my brain down completely. Other substances can leave you aware in some way. I've tried every kind of drug in every kind of way. I had a boyfriend who was a drug dealer, and he used to mix up concoctions of pills, meth, and other stuff I don't even know. I would just put my arm out and let him inject me. I was hoping it would kill me. It's truly amazing how resilient we are, those of us who suffered the abuse of narc parents. I've been watching documentaries about addiction and family interventions on drug addicts. I keep fantasizing about how interventions on narc parents, because abusing us is our parents' addiction, and nobody ever sees that, and nobody intervenes to stop it. In the end, we have to do fucking everything. The substance for their supply, suffer the abuse, get fucked up ourselves in 1,000 ways. And then we have to be the interventionist team. That is a very good way of putting it. Their narcissism is their addiction. That's what they're addicted to. They're addicted to their narcissism. They're addicted to their abuse. There are so many black spots in my childhood and teenage memories. I think the psychiatric term for it is disassociation. And many children of narcs probably disassociated just to survive. It's like you're walking along and then you fall into a dark hole. Your mind just can't cope. I blacked out many times with shock at the sudden random ferocity of my parents' attacks. The sadism from both of them was fucking incredible. It was like they had the hatred of 1,000 people from 1,000 lifetimes, both of them just for me, a little girl. For no reason. I was just such a good little girl, extremely bright, polite, neat, kind, obedient. But my big mistake was I could see their darkness, and I knew they were wrong. I would not submit, obey, pretend, beg. I would not play their game. I was afraid. I was fucking terrified. But I would still speak the truth and would not accept their darkness. Even though my father literally worshipped my mother and gave her everything she ever wanted, she still had affairs with other men. When I was older, I found out that early in their marriage, she was sleeping with a low-ranking soldier under my father's command. Extremely humiliating for my father, but he obviously enjoys it. It's like these narc couples take turns in emotional S&M. One is the brutal sadist, the other is the groveling masochist, and then they swap. It's so sick and demented. About 10 years ago, I was staying with my parents because I was really unwell with bipolar symptoms. I was in a psychotic state, not violent, just very emotional, confused, delusional. But for some reason, I wanted to tell my dad about the time my mom met some guy and wanted to start seeing him behind my father's back. She asked me if I could use my phone to be in contact with him. I was disgusted and wouldn't let her use my phone and said I'd tell my dad if she started seeing this guy. She said she wouldn't see the guy, but I'm not sure if she did or not. I never told my dad, so when I was sick, it just came to my mind and I told my dad. He was angry with me. He was so furious and said through gritted teeth, "Don't ruin my fucking retirement with your mother. I don't fucking care what she did." Then he came at me like he was going to hit me, but I wasn't going to take it anymore. I was literally insane at that moment and smashed the glass and said, "If you come near me, I will rip your pacemaker out of your heart." For once, he backed off, afraid. He locked the door and called the police and ambulance because I had cut myself badly with the broken glass. Then I was taken away in an ambulance. I sat in an emergency for many hours. I ended up having to leave with some guy I met there. And then I was missing, and then I was a missing person for months. Some really bad things happened to me. I eventually ended up in a psych ward. My parents were called. I don't know why. Then my mother rang me in the psych ward after I had been missing for months and extremely sick. And she just started ranting on, saying, "We don't understand why you're like this. You had a good life. You loved your high school." I started screaming that I hated my high school. It was a nightmare. Then the psych nurse made me get off the phone. Look, because your mother's doing that so you don't blame them because they know they're the ones to blame. When I was about 13, we went on a family holiday. I was ashamed of the way I looked, and I wore a lot of makeup to try to cover my ugliness. One morning on the holiday, I got ready and came out of the bathroom. My dad said, "Wipe that shit off your face. We're going to SeaWorld, and I'm not paying an adult fare for you." I refused to wipe it off as I was embarrassed about how I looked, and he knew that. There are some black holes in my memory of what happened, but I remember my father strangling me, trying to crush my jaw in his hands. I couldn't breathe and I was terrified. I was trying to get him off me so I could breathe, and I accidentally scratched his face with my nails. 25 years later, my parents still talk about the time I scratched my poor father's face. I remember I ran out of the holiday park and ran across a 4-lane highway and almost got killed. I just had to keep running to get away from them, but they chased me and got me. Then my mother was screaming and wailing and crawling around on the floor. She crawled over to me and bit my legs. Yes, she bit me. My father was watching. I don't know where my brother was, but eventually we all went to SeaWorld. My father took a photo of me and my mother and my brother standing out the front. I remember he said to me, "You better fucking smile or I'll come over there and make you fucking smile." My parents have made me feel shame and humiliation throughout my life. I know that I'm responsible for my life at 39 years of age, but I can't get past the shame. My life is basically the same as the junkies who live in the public housing building I have to live in. Junkies and criminals who assault me, steal from me, harass me, and terrify me. My income is so low I can barely afford to live. Just getting groceries is an ordeal without a car. I've had a series of boyfriends and girlfriends. I've basically been with every kind of person, male, female, younger, black, white, fat, skinny, just searching and searching for some kind of love. But I was taught that love is torture, punishment, and being used. So it's no surprise that I keep attracting the same type of abuse. I am compassionate to an insane level. I've always helped every person I've come across until I was just bones and the vultures kept coming to pick over my dry fucking bones. My parents love it when I get to rock bottom, licking their lips with excitement at my destruction. I've lost count how many times I've tried to kill myself, but no matter how I try, I just can't fucking die. But just lately, I think I know why I can't die. It might be because I am really amazing, talented, beautiful human being who has never lost her compassion for others or her compassion to learn to laugh, to find a way out of her dark hell. Maybe the only real mistake I've made is failing to have compassion for myself. It's taken almost 4 decades, but I'm finally trying to care about myself. I've literally had to disconnect from almost every single person I know, all because they were all bleeding me dry in any way they could. It's like I was asleep for centuries and suddenly woke up and saw I was surrounded by demons and vampires feasting on my soul. I'm not saying I've been a perfect angel, but how many of us children of narcs have immense compassion for others? The thing about waking up surrounded by these fuckers is I see there's an open door and I can try and walk out. That seems too simplistic, but I've decided that it is that simple. It has to be. I have to walk out the door. I talk to myself every day and say, "You're incredible, you're amazing, you've done so well." And everyone has just kicked you when you were down. Everyone has wanted more and more. The last crumb. Even when they see you literally and metaphorically starving to death, they still demand your last crumb. Well, now they just have to go and fuck themselves. I'm going to have a whole slice of bread. I'm going to have the whole loaf of bread. I'm going to have a fucking feast. And every last crumb is for me. Ollie, I actually believed I was the lowest piece of shit in the world, the most worthless thing. I kept punishing myself over and over, but I am not a piece of shit. I've just been encased, surrounded, and tuned by narcissistic pieces of shit. Time for me to clean myself. People think hell is after you die, that hell is where the demons are. That's not how it is. Hell is right here. It's in every life of every one of us who had narc parents. And heaven is finally knowing I am not the only one. It was never me. It was never my fault. Every time I listen to your YouTube videos and the stories that people send you, it's like a blessing, a healing, a message of hope. I hate that so many people suffer just like I did, and I often cry over their pain. But I am grateful for the courage to share it, and grateful for you, Ollie. In reading it and giving invaluable advice and strength, sometimes it's like you reach right through the screen, all the way from the USA, all the way to Australia, and give me strength. Heaven is no contact. I've only just started no contact after trying to do it many times. It's really difficult because I have very few tools for survival, much less tools to thrive, but I will find a way. I have to stop writing now. I am listening to your videos as I write. I just listened to Grace talking about abuse by nuns at the Catholic Church. This happened to my mother. I've heard many, many stories about the way they humiliated her so deeply, assaulted her, made her feel shame and unworthiness, but she did not have to do the same thing to me. I always felt my mother's pain and tried to heal her pain a million times. Now I have to heal my own pain. I am sorry this has been a long piece. I tried to make it shorter. I wrote it out by hand in my journal, and I haven't even typed out half of the handwritten notes about my story. Anyway, I want you to know that you have been so important to me on my journey of healing from narcissistic abuse. The way Grace put it is exactly right. You're providing triage on a battlefield for us. The narcs have been shooting at us, throwing grenades, crushing us underneath tanks. My father was a tank commander in Vietnam, and you, Ollie, are helping us escape the battlefield and begin to heal. Thank you so much. Much love to you and Charlene. Namaste. The goddess within me honors the goddess within you both. Terry. Well, thank you very much, Terry. And it was a wonderfully written story. And it's funny that the sadistic abuse that you went through is very similar to the sadistic abuse I went through at the hands of my mother and father. And they both went to Catholic school. And your mother is saying you went to Catholic school as well. So there's a source of it. But again, she knew it was wrong. She knew it was wrong when she did it. That's why she said she threatened to sue you. That's why they always freaked out when you wrote something in your journal, because they knew. They knew. Because it becomes their drug. And I believe somewhere in there I made that narcissism is their drug. And they are addicted to it. Narcissism is their addiction. And your mother got her first fix of narcissism right in that Catholic school, because all the tactics are the same. The kneeling, the dragging, the kicking, the screaming. It's like being raised by a Catholic school nun. All of it. So, also sorry I'm scratching my nose a lot. I think I might be fighting another cold. I hope not, but it's just been itching me. So, thank you so much for your contribution. I realize that you saved up to make it, and I do appreciate that. And thank you for your story. It's very well written. You obviously have writing ability. And I would also question your diagnosis of bipolar, because it sounds more like complex CPTSD to me and flashbacks. Much like your father went through Vietnam flashbacks and all that. Trauma is trauma. You're still going to face it. Nobody's calling him bipolar. Keep that in mind and keep pressing forward. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any advice or opinions in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover or a narcissist you'd like to expose, you know what to do with the PayPal and my email links in the description box. And remember, when you do email me to the email link, to please include at the top of the email whether it's with or without contribution and what name you'd like to go by. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. See you all again soon.